And
Hello.
Razul, you have a little bit of background noise.
That's okay. He's fine. And welcome to Inspire Synergy. I am your host, the best podcast host in the universe, Steve Cully. I'd like to thank our sponsors at Procyon Partners. They specialize in employee benefits, wealth management, and retirement planning. One of the top 50 fastest growing companies in the nation. President Sean Rabinowitz is a proud supporter of our podcast network. Green Street Trust International, owned and operated by Rennell Jump. They specialize in tax plans for businesses large and small. They will save you money or get you a big fat return. To schedule your free strategic tax planning session today, go to www.greenstreettrust.com. Pete Finch and the Finch Law Firm, besides having the greatest commercials, is located in Bridgeport, Connecticut. If you've suffered any type of personal injury, a slip and fall, a car accident, a construction beam fell on you at a site, your mother-in-law ran you over with her car, your wife got angry and decided to stab you, the Finch firm is for you. Pete is located in Bridgeport, Connecticut. He has gone to war with many insurance companies throughout the state, and he will get every dollar you deserve in compensation. You have to remember, in a pinch, call Finch or go to his website, thefinchfirm.com. Dynamic Human Performance is owned and operated by UConn legendary running back Andre Dixon. He trains boys and girls of all ages, of all sports. He has a 5,000 square foot state-of-the-art facility in Hartford. He has a boot camp program 7 days a week at 6 a.m. You want to get in shape, you go to Andre. He has an athletic development program where he takes boys and girls in the sport of their choice, trains them, develops them from the ground up, helps them to reach their full potential, become the best they can possibly be. And Andre has sent boys and girls to college on scholarship for all sports. To work with Andre and the best, like I said, it's www.dynamichumanperformance.com. Down south, we have Julius Williams and the Trench Mob. Julius and his team train offensive and defensive linemen in Decatur, Georgia. They compete in 5v5 tournaments all across the country. They go to college showcase camps all over the place. And 5v5 competition, they were undefeated, the Trench Mob was. And at every camp they attended, a member of the Trench Mob was offered a full college scholarship. So Julius has sent kids to schools like Florida, Florida State, Miami, Tennessee, Clemson, Georgia, Alabama, just to name a few. And you can work with Julius wherever you are in the country. He has a virtual program and will be with you every step of the way. He has workout programs you can travel to. You can go to any 5v5 tournament or camp as a Trench Mob member. And you have to remember, this is an investment. It will lead to something. A large percentage of Trench Mob members go to college for free and or receive NIL deals. So to work with the best, go to www.battleofthetrenches.com. James Whitfield owns and runs Luther James Insurance. For the last 3 years, James has dedicated himself to the art of financial planning. He specializes in insurance policies, especially life insurance, but James will put you in the right policy and make you a lot of money tax-free. And he focuses as well on retirement planning. James understands the stress that comes when thinking about retirement. Do I have enough money? How much am I really going to need? For how long? How many years? Do I have enough to last? He also helps police officers, first responders, EMTs, achieve financial stability. Because James understands fear of the unknown is real. And now for the men of Inspire Synergy, we have House of Changes, CFO himself, CEO, CFO. He just, runs it all. And he's becoming a real estate tycoon, Mr. Razul Wallace. Razul.
What's going on, Steve?
And his partner, who is a chief relationship architect, which is great because I got to hire one of those. I need a relationship architect in my life. Ja, great to see you.
Thank you for having me, Kali and Abdul. Really looking forward to the conversation. So thank you for being here.
And Ja's stealing my thunder. We have a very special guest, Mr. Abdul. It is so, I'm so delighted to meet you. I've heard wonderful things about you. My People Community Services, you're very involved with the community, and you have an important message, and you've done so much for so many, and I am just excited to hear your story and everything that you're bringing to the table, influencing, especially with the House of Changes. So welcome to Inspire Synergy.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, we're happy to have you as well. So just for our novice listeners, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, some of your background, your experiences, a little get to know you period?
Sure, why not?
Right.
Well, 20 years ago, I started an organization called My People Clinical Services. I had the desire to, have my own business at the time, and I really didn't want to work for anyone else. I also felt that there was opportunity out there, and there was a way that we could do the work for the community in such a way that it would make positive change. It would help our people succeed. So I started My People Clinical, and very quickly, My People went from me starting it at my kitchen table to us having over 100 staff in less than a year. And so we grew very quickly. And over the last 20 years, we've done a number of different business. We had a business called the Dream Support Network, where we tried to inspire kids to live the life of their dreams. And then currently, we just started our nonprofit about 5 or 6 years ago, where we are able to do other services. With My People Clinical, one of the things is that we weren't able to get like contracts with the state and different things. So we needed to make that transition to be able to allow us to, solidify some of that long-term funding with the state. I mean, even though we're in a time right now where, all of that's up in the air. But
well, I know you want constant. It's very difficult to get consistent revenue streams. So exactly. I completely understand that.
Yeah. So we started My People Community, and we currently are doing supportive housing for young adults. We have 5 supportive housing programs where we house about 21 young people, and we provide them with support 24 hours a day. We have our launch program for high school students, just helping them figure out what they're going to do when they leave high school and how they're going to launch out into the world. We have the Manhood Tree program, and we have our foster care program as well. So we're busy.
Oh, you're involved with
busy,
everything,
making it happen. And I like to shout out Razul and Ja. They seem to be always making things happen, and I enjoy hearing from them, and hearing what they're up to.
They most certainly are, and it's just there's a lot of services out there that are needed. A lot of people who are going without these resources. And especially in Connecticut, it's incredible that you're providing them. Where are you located? I'm sure, do you have a centralized location? I'm sure you have throughout the state. But
yeah, we're located right here in Hartford, Connecticut.
You're in Hartford, okay. Mm-hmm. And so literally 20 years ago, you just started around your kitchen table, and it has blossomed into this really extensive nonprofit that helps people in so many different ways.
Yeah.
That's amazing right there. What was the first part? I mean, everybody, I think their dream is to work for themselves and have a business. What was the first aspect when you were starting My People that you wanted to tackle immediately, that you saw either the greatest need for, or that you felt that you could get on the ground fast enough?
Yeah, well, when I started the business, what I was very interested in was fatherhood. So the first program I created was a program called the Father to Father program. Interestingly enough, 20 years ago, nobody else cared about fathers as much.
No,
And so
no.
it was really one of those things where, you know, with business, you can do whatever you want, but if you want to make money, you can't do fatherhood in 20 years ago.
Absolutely not. No, you're
So,
pariah.
we made a pivot and we started doing a mentoring program. We started doing in-home therapeutic services, and that was able to get our business off the ground. We still did fatherhood, but just it wasn't a make money thing. It was more of a heart thing.
Sure.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah.
When you started, did you was it like the income from that, did you guys work with ABH at all in the beginning, or was that kind of like or do you work with them now at all?
No, advanced behavioral health.
Yep.
Yeah, no. When we first started, our first we used to, with the fatherhood stuff, I get like some small contracts to do some groups or something like that. But it wasn't enough to say I'm an entrepreneur and I'm gonna leave my job, And
Yeah,
so
no.
when our first real contract where we were able to kind of really start thinking that this could really go somewhere is when we did our mentoring program with DCF. The ABH process you're talking about was created because of organizations like mine,
Like yours.
to be honest with you. So like the
Yeah.
whole credentialing process, what you're talking about is credentialing. And so my agency is pre-credentialing. And so my agency, Abundant Family Services, Faye at I can't remember Faye's agency name, but our agencies were very big. Like, we had 100 plus staff, 200 plus mentoring cases. And so, because of what we did, DCF decided they wanted to create credentialing, which would be make you go through a process to allow for you to be able to offer mentoring service. They call it therapeutic support and SS and TSS. So, support services and therapeutic support services. But before all of that, it was just mentoring.
And now, since you started before that, did you are you like kind of grandfathered in before that, or do you go through ABH now?
No, so we don't even offer those services anymore. So
Oh, wow.
it's interesting. Like, so you got to think, 20 years, a lot of things change.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the things that for us, like I said, at one point, I could have easily had 200 cases of mentoring, 200 cases. And so
I believe
the
it.
thing about when you create a system like ABH and you say you have to go through credentialing, it slows down the process. So like right now,
Yeah.
I would doubt if there was any agency that has more than 50 cases for their TSS or SS because of that system. So before it was like it was straight like hustling, like I would go to DCF. I work primarily with the Hartford office, and I was able to make connections and provide a level of service that people like, and so we would just get referrals, and it was just like every day, all day. I used to have a board up in my office where we would track all of our referrals on a week, and so I would be like putting 3 or 4 referrals up every day, and so that was just like, in the early days, to take it out of the DCF workers' hands, because that's what ABH did. It made you go through a different system, and so those connections that you made are not. It's not the same. It's like it's much harder to get referrals and all that kind of stuff. And so slowly but surely, once they implemented ABH and TSS and SS, our referrals went from, on an average year, we would have 100, 120 referrals to it becoming less and less. And so the very important thing that we had to do is, once again, we had to pivot, because if we would have just stayed in doing that, I wouldn't be here talking to you guys right now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be in business, because when things start going down, you operate at a certain standard when you're in business. You're saying like, okay, every year we're going to get 120 referrals, and this program, that's enough to be able for us to hire some staff and do certain things. When those numbers go from 120 to 80, from 80 to 50, you have to either you're either going to say I'm gonna ride this all the way down to
Or
one,
your bankruptcy.
or right, I'm gonna go do something else. And so that's
Right.
what we did. We just did something else.
That
So,
makes
Great question though.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ja.
So Abdul, the name of the business resonates really well with me. And Razul and I, and our third person is Letitia. We're very faith driven.
Yeah.
And I get that vibration from you, Abdul.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me like the motivation behind My People and why you chose that as a name, and you branded that?
Well, before I had My People Clinical Services, I had a greeting card company called My People's Urban Cards. And so if you are like connected to the like hip hop in any kind of way, or just being down with the people, we always say that's my people's. That's just like a term of endearment. If you're my people's, you're somebody I care about. You're somebody I love. You're somebody I want the best for, right? And so basically, I just took my people's from the greeting card and I took off the Z because one of the first people I hired, he was the clinical director. He said, that doesn't sound so professional, my people's. Now, the thing that's interesting about it is if you ever hear somebody talk about my agency, they're going to call it my people's, though.
Yeah.
Because even though on paper it says my people, they know what it is. And so when they talk about us, they say my people's this, my people's that. And so that just shows me that I was like on to something in the sense of even with the name, because I think a name is very important.
It's your brand, absolutely.
Yeah. So it resonates with people, and I think that but the bigger thing for me was me saying that, I want to see my peoples succeed. I want to see them be in a position where they are not always, in trouble, always having issues, always having concerns. I want to see them in a position where they're excelling, they're becoming their best selves. And that's what we sought out to do when we had this organization.
So obviously, I mean, I can already tell you're a man of integrity and someone who had a dream or wanted to give back to your people, and that's amazing. Was there one thing in particular, or were there multiple things in particular that made you transition out from the greeting card business into starting a nonprofit? Because that is quite an undertaking, trying to get funding and jumping through all the red tape and all the hoops that the state can make you do.
Well, I went from the greeting cards to a for-profit, so that still exists. Yeah, the nonprofit just is only like 6 years old. But so the reason why I left the greeting cards is that at the end of the day, you got to make money. Any business you do, you got to make money. So
we got to live.
Like doing the greeting cards, I had to find a way to make money, and I'm also by trade I'm a social worker, and so
that's
the greeting cards
figured,
is stepping outside of my profession. But I figured, if I'm gonna put it all on the table, it should be in something that I going to school for, that I have some knowledge about, and so I decided just to take the best parts of the greeting card company, the name, and just push it over to the agency.
So Abdul, I label you, like when I introduce you, I call you the grandmaster of fatherhood, especially when we talk about young people and communities.
Godfather of fatherhood is what I heard.
You said the Godfather. He said the grandfather. I know I have a great
beard.
Don't call him the grandfather.
Sorry, the Godfather. Freudian slip.
He's a pioneer.
I'm not that old, but
he's a pioneer.
Yeah, I'm a pioneer either way. But yeah, I appreciate that because, to this day, I'm still very, very much engaged in what's going on. I'm at the pulse of what's going on in the state with fatherhood. But at the same time, like I created another program called the Manhood Tree, which focuses more on manhood, because I think that one of the things, you know, doing fatherhood all these years, one of the things I've realized is that fatherhood is like a euphemism. So like people like the idea of dealing with fathers. They want, and they have a specific kind of father they want to deal with. But the reality is they don't really want to deal with men. They don't want to deal with men as and how men are, because men can be aggressive, men can be loud,
Confrontational.
men aren't taking no junk, you know.
Yeah.
And they want a father who cares so much about their child that they will minimize their manhood
Their
to
feelings and manhood,
to be a good father over being the man that they are. And so I created the manhood tree just because I feel like, you know, we got to be men. A father is just a off the branch of manhood. You don't just become, you know, so it's like really just kind of like highlighting manhood and pushing that up a little bit. I still, like I said, I do a lot of stuff with fatherhood still, but the work that I do specifically in this community right now, you know, is with men and just kind of helping them to kind of navigate through their past and where they would like to be as men, as fathers, as brothers, as husbands, all of that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you say that. Razul and myself and I, one of our teammates, Chris Bellamy, he is a big advocate and champion for fathers' rights, and you know he's told me several stories about men who want to get equal time with their children who are not married, who don't even know that they have rights, who don't even know that there are certain cases they can fight, and they give up before the battle even begins. Is that something that you aim to try to help provide some education on or resources with?
yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, I've been in court with numerous men throughout the years,
Yeah.
and the whole, you know, the system, and I'm talking about DCF, judicial, prisons,
I
all
know.
of those things. I think, like I said, they have their viewpoint on how things should be, how they would like things to be.
They have their box.
Yeah, a nice little box, and
Yeah.
anything that's outside of that is they don't like it. To take for example, all four of us. I don't know if you guys all have children, but like if you see me, I got my little suit on today, right? And so you see me, you think I'm gonna be easy to deal with because I'm wearing my suit, I'm professional. As a matter
That's
of fact,
exactly what I thought. Just so you know,
you're gonna treat me like, yeah, you called me Mr. Abdul. I loved it. It was wonderful. So the reality is this suit is just another outfit. I'm still Abdul, right?
you are who you are. Yes.
And so, but the thing is that they don't want to deal with me when I have on an Adidas sweatsuit, right? And so so this is a game. I'm playing a game with this suit, but on the inside, either way, I'm still a man. So if you
Doesn't
come to
change who
me
you are.
talking about you're gonna take my children or whatever, I'm gonna respond in a certain way. Not to say that I don't know how to be professional. I can't talk to people a certain way. But in the regular world, when you're protective of your children, when you fight for your children, when you care about your children, you're like raised up high. But when you deal with some of the systems and you try to do the same things, they don't want to deal with that.
Now you're angry. Now you're confrontational. Now you're difficult.
Exactly.
Yes. 100%.
So
Abdul, you do a lot of big time keynote speaking between the manhood.
I would assume, yeah.
With big time conferences.
Mm-hmm.
Can you speak towards that a little bit, and then kind of layer in, like from a program perspective, like impact, because I'm familiar with the Manhood Initiative, but I would like you to talk a little more about that too, you know, and the impact and what difference you see it's been making within the community.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I give keynotes. I would say all the time, or at least, you know, every few months I'll do something. I have actually 2 keynotes this month, and I'll be talking to parents, but I'll make an emphasis on fathers, and then I have another one where I'll be talking to parents and teachers, and so and I think it's a good platform to just get my thoughts out and be able to talk about stuff.
Openly.
that I think is important. With the manhood tree, we have four. I mentioned before, we have four initiatives. We have our group, and I think that the group is very important because there are very seldom places where men can go and they can talk about their trauma, where they can be vulnerable.
Oh, we're
Sometimes
allowed to be vulnerable?
huh?
We're allowed to be vulnerable?
Oh yeah, you can do it if you come to my group. Come over to my group. You can be vulnerable
I'm
because
kidding.
it's the thing.
It's a
We've been through
misconception.
stuff. We've been through stuff too, right? So a lot of time what we learn as a man is that okay, you've been through some stuff. Bury it, deal with it,
Exactly.
get over it. But it's the thing is that you can't bury it deep enough. You
No.
can't get over it. And so the way you respond to people, the way you do things in your life is based off of the trauma that you're walking around with, and you still so it makes it where you seem angry, you seem not locked in with your family, and so our group takes you um, from your roots to your neighborhood, to your boyhood, to your teen, your young adulthood. It lets you look at all of that. And then after you've kind of looked at it, kind of really talked about it, then we switch over and talk about brotherhood, fatherhood, relationships, manhood. And then most importantly, I think, and I'll say most importantly, but equally as important, we talk about men's health, which is also extremely important because, a lot of us are sick, are going to be sick, and we don't have a relationship with our doctors. And so what we just try to do is give men the information and give men the space to be able to be their best.
So you said there's four initiatives. I know one of them is group, and then
Then we have another group, the Fatherhood Monologues, where we work with men to write stories about being a father or being fathered, and then they go out and they do a presentation, like we do a show at the end of that group. Then we have our Men's Health Initiative, where we do like community events. We have our Men's Health and Wellness Weekend, where we go. This year we were up at UConn for the weekend, and we had different presenters. We did yoga, we did sound healing, we did a drumming workshop, all that kind of stuff. And then every Tuesday at 6, we have our podcast where we talk about all of these types of things. This week on the podcast, we talked about men's health. We had two plant-based guys, and we had two guys, me being one of them, who ate meat. And we also talked about just overall health. One of the guys wanted to talk about blood pressure. Another one talked about prostate cancer. I talked about my kidney failure and my open heart surgery and stuff like that.
Oh, God bless you.
Yeah, thank you. And so it was a good conversation.
And then the last initiative.
That was 4.
Okay.
The podcast, Men's Health, Fatherhood Monologues, and the group, Manhunt Tree Group.
What would you say? Because people always talk about the mental health crisis in this country. Is that something that you deal with when talking with men? Do you see a stigma behind it, or men more reluctant to seek out either an evaluation or mental health treatment, or lack of resources?
Yeah, I think that's also, it's a learned behavior where we're not supposed to seek out help. We're just
suffer in
some
silence,
dirt on it and get over it. However, we have another initiative called that. It's like a saying. But we do something under it. Men's health is community health. And so when we talk about men's health, we're not just talking about physically. We're talking about it all starts up here. And so my whole thing with like our groups, and I've done a lot of like groups and things like that over the years. The reason I created the Manhood Tree group is a lot of groups, it's like you do the group and you're just trying to get through it. With the Manhood Tree group, my main goal is to let men talk. I want them to talk about stuff that they don't talk about.
You got to give them that safe space.
Not to talk about. Yeah. And so I really think that, the mental health crisis is it comes down to people having places where they feel they can trust, and having people in our community that they can trust. Historically, African American people, our trust of government institutions, of therapists, of doctors, all of that stuff is negative. And so what we have to do is rebuild that trust. And so that, we're trying to do our part in that process.
Right. No, and that's a big undertaking. The other thing I had read about is as far as education, and there's some sort of like an education disconnect in certain districts compared to other districts. Is that something you've experienced as far as, because you're around the entire state of Connecticut? And I know there's a lot of factors that go into it. I know teachers are underpaid and all that, but do you see that as far as education is concerned?
Sure. I mean, my whole thing with education, I think that, we do a lot of work with teenagers, and a lot like at the end of the last school year, Hartford public schools asked me to come in and give a speech to a group of high school seniors, and they didn't know what they were going to do with their life. They were kind of like, I'm graduating, but I don't know what I'm going to do next. And I think that's kind of part of the problem, is that a lot of kids, they have these behaviors, they're on the internet, they're going to be an influencer, they're going to do a podcast or whatever. They're not locked in on their future. They've never really thought about what their dream is. What do they like doing? What do they think they would be good at? And so you get caught up. And I mean, right now I think a lot of kids, they're using a lot of drugs and different things like that to escape. But it's like, this world isn't going anywhere, and you're not gonna be young forever. And so my whole thing is just, when I was talking to that group of kids, is just letting them know that you gotta find something that you would do for free, but you actually get paid for it. It's like that's the key to life. It's like, I could do this for hours. Like, I could talk to you guys all day, no problem. But I probably need to get paid for it if I'm gonna do that much talk, right? So it's like I think that's the key, and I don't think that kids talk enough with individuals who weren't like me. I wasn't a great high school student. I wasn't on the dean's list or anything.
You weren't summa cum laude or valedictorian.
I wasn't summa cum laude in high school, right? Because in my mind at the time, I was going to be a basketball star. That's what I was going to do. I'm going to play basketball. And so, but when that was taken away, when I didn't become a basketball star, now I had to start thinking about, well, what else is there? What else do I like to do? Who else do I look up to? I liked Spike Lee, so I went to film school for a semester. But I went to film school and I was like, I don't really like this.
I don't like it. This ain't for me either.
But making a movie is actually hard, Yeah. And so I think that but kids should know you could fail. I told a kid the other day, you could fail for 10 straight years in your 20s. You could just go through your 20s.
I think I did fail for 10 straight years in my 20s.
Me too.
So there you go.
You could screw it up royally and then hit 30 and you can lock in and you'll be fine. Because the messing up in your 20s you're young. When you're young,
you got time to adjust.
That's what I feel like that's what it's for you to kind of gain the experience and learn and understand yourself, right? Like, exactly. Like you said, I thought I would have liked making movies and like watching them, and then you're like, well, I might like this part about it, but I don't like this. I don't want to do that. No, you got to find something that has a little more of this.
Right. Yeah. I learned very quickly. I'm not a technical person, right? I'm not going to learn about a video camera,
the editing and the filming and getting the shots right. Yeah.
I just want to watch it. I don't want to do none of that.
A good story.
And it's crazy when you see somebody who does. You're in film school with people that they really love it. And I was like, I got to get out of here, man. And so it was embarrassing to come back to Connecticut after being in New York and thinking I'm going to be the next Spike Lee. However, I do that over 100 times. I try a whole bunch of other stuff. If I could go back and if you could make me 20 right now, I don't know if this podcast has that power, but if you guys make me 20 years old,
can do that.
I'll go fail at a whole bunch of other stuff because it's like,
it would take you to where you are today.
To do it, yeah.
Yep, and that's the best time to do it, 100%.
I think that's a conversation in itself, teaching them that, like, failure is only a failure if you don't learn that from it.
Exactly.
Right. And I try to encourage my kids to fail as much as possible. Try it. Failure is not a real thing. It's not real. It's just it's like
it's like you said. failure is a part of the process.
It's an
Right.
experience.
It's like you wouldn't have a good story. Nobody wants to read a story where it's like, yo, I wanted to do this, and then I went to school for a
I
year, and then
succeeded. I had no adversity.
It was great.
Yeah.
One time I was giving a speech to some prisoners, right? I had about 50 prisoners in the room. And at the time, this is when I was doing a lot of dream chasing stuff. And like, I thought I was inspiring them. I was showing them, like me traveling all over the world, jumping out of airplanes, doing all this stuff. And what was actually happening, the prisoners were getting mad. They were pissed because they were like, yo, I'm
this guy's out there.
now.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting because one of the guys spoke up and he's like, yo, you're up here with your suit on, talking about all this stuff you're doing, and we can't do any of that stuff. So how is this supposed to help us?
Was it a maximum facility place, or was it?
No, they were gonna get out. These guys, this wasn't forever prison. This was 3-5 years prison, right?
Okay.
And so I stopped the speech. I stopped the project, the PowerPoint, and I said to them, "You cannot judge a book by its cover." Because I'm like, bro, I look good. I know I'm like a good looking dude. I got on my suit.
I give it to you. I like
but I said, listen, you are perfectly healthy. You are perfectly healthy. When I was 25 years old, I got kidney failure for the first time. Okay? And at the time, then I went on to say, see, you guys are upset with me for going to live my life, but you still have an opportunity to go live your life. When you get out of here, you get a reset. You get to do whatever you want to do. You can go back to doing what you did to get in here, or you can go out and go travel around the world, jump out of airplanes or whatever. You get to choose. But right now, while you're up here being upset with me, you should be taking this information, because showing you these videos it's not the point. There was a point I was making, right? We were talking about never stop dreaming. And so the whole point is that you could use the time while you're in here to plan your future. You could be ready with day one when you walk out of here. Or you could sit in here and feel sorry for yourself and upset with somebody who's trying to inspire and encourage you to do more. Room was silent, and everybody was full attention after that. So I think that,
well, you connected with them on their level.
Oh yeah, I always get back to their level.
Yeah.
So
one thing we're really passionate about at House of Changes, obviously, is housing. And we put quite a bit of resources into that. And you mentioned that that's also a passion and programming that you offer. Can you speak more towards that and like the need and how we can start to collectively start bridging some of those gaps?
I think you said 21, right?
21
or
we
24?
have 21 apartments in our supportive housing program.
24 hours a day, yeah.
So that's the thing. From a business model, when I got my first housing program, supportive housing program, the thought process was, with most programs, you only get to work with a kid for maybe 3 hours, 4 hours, 7 hours, whatever, if you're doing some mentoring, right? But with a 24-hour program, you can work with them at any time of the day and all weekend. You're basically, somebody's there for them all the time. And so, and I mean, we do have a couple of programs where we own the building, which is, I think, a good, business idea. But I think at the end of the day, I mean, even right now, we're working on getting the title of being a CDC, a Community Development Corporation, which allows us to do more of that kind of work. And so I think that, our housing program is very different from what you guys are doing, because we do the program not necessarily to help them live on their own. We're trying to help them get themselves together in our program so that when they transition, they'll be able to live on their own. Our program is more providing them with a safe environment where they can kind of work on themselves, get themselves together, and then make that next step after 18 to 24 months. And so I think that with the CDC, maybe we'll do some stuff in housing, for like low-income housing, housing with people in our community. I think that would be interesting. let's just see if it's technically the right fit for us.
Right. And just out of curiosity, where's your housing located right now?
It's in Hartford.
You're in
we
Hartford.
have
You're in
4 of our
Hartford.
programs in Hartford, 1 in East Hartford.
And okay, so it's kind of a place where people go to reset and can stay. You said 18 to 24 months.
Some stay longer.
Yeah.
We've had a few people to stay for 5 years, but
And
they're supposed to leave.
Is it rent free? Is it rent controlled?
Yeah.
It's all affordable housing.
It's basically funded by the Department of Mental Health and Addiction.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because I mean, that is the biggest one of the biggest complaints in this country is the quality of living or cost of living and the cost of affordable housing in this country. It's it's high right now. It takes a good chunk out of people's income, and it makes it difficult to support families and do other things.
Right.
What do you think is the best way that we can go about trying to combat that? Or is that just going to continue to get worse as time goes on, just because of the way our government is, our society is? We can only do so much.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think realistically, unless the other day I was listening to somebody, I don't know who I was listening to, but they were basically talking about billionaires. And what I decided yesterday when I was listening to them is that I don't want to be a billionaire.
Oh, you don't?
I don't even care. No. I don't even care what the billionaires are doing, because
it's a different.
The reality is this: the only billionaire that I like right now is Jeff Bezos' ex-wife, because she's actually taking her money and she's doing something with it in the community.
It's a good use.
Being a billionaire, in my estimation, being a billionaire is not that much different from being a millionaire or being a 100,000-aire. You can get a bigger boat, you can get more houses, you can get because there's limited things you can get in this world. It's not like you can fly up into the atmosphere, but you got to come back.
Yeah.
And so the reality is that there's limited things you could do now, but there's unlimited people you could help. You could help people all day, every day, twice on Sunday, and you would still have a line the next day.
Very true.
My whole thing is with the housing, I don't think it's going to change unless you have billionaires, millionaires, people who do housing. Say, you know what? I'm not going to always try to, for every time I build something it's a high end, I'm going to build something low end. I'm going to build something for the community. I'm going to build the stuff to get all the money I can, and then I'm going to give something back. Until you get people that are doing that, nothing's going to change. So therefore, parents like myself have to prepare for their kids who are in college right now to come back home. We
because
can't
they can't afford to live on their own.
We're gonna be living a good life. No, we're gonna wait until our kids are able to save some money and get themselves situated in their career and get themselves situated and get their own housing, and then maybe we can do all that kind of stuff. But we have to be planful, So it's like I think we just have to. It's not going anywhere because people are greedy, and I don't think too many people are thinking about the little people, the people that are struggling. And so
certainly are not.
It ain't gonna change, in my estimation.
I think it's gonna get worse and the main reason I think it's gonna get worse is because the gap between the wealth, as the wealth gap increases, this increase in poverty, which is one of the leading indicators of crime.
Yep.
Well, there's no middle class.
Yeah, and with inflation and the not just inflation, but the cost of living increasing, so outpacing income, and it's really I really see it getting a lot more challenging, and a lot of the challenges that we're dealing with in society getting worse, affordability going down. So there's going to be a harder need, but it's so hard putting together some of these pro forma for these developments. You see the cost of building versus affordability. It's just
there's no way to make the numbers work, right?
Not without subsidies.
Right.
Math just doesn't matter.
Yeah, and especially trying to get grant money for affordable housing. There's 5 million grants for it, just like you guys trying to submit one. Mm-hmm. It's not that easy to get that money from the state. That's the other problem.
I agree. Yeah,
that it's not as balanced as it can be.
Something's gonna have to change, right? There's gonna have to be somebody or some people who say, you know what, I've got enough. Now I know they're planning for like 3 generations down and all that stuff.
But generational wealth. Yep.
Yeah, but the point is that somebody's gonna have to say, you know what, I'm gonna make a change. I'm gonna do something different. And it's not likely, but that's the only way things are gonna
will change.
Or everything's gonna have to fall on top of itself. It's gonna have to totally go back down to 0, and then we have to start over again.
But like what we believe, like our name is House of Changes, which aligns with what you're talking about. And even like today, we're focused on doing our small part with adding to the inventory for affordable housing and getting access to the information on what, like who actually needs services and what's something that we could actually do and hopefully inspire other people, hence the name of this podcast, Inspire Synergy, to help join in and hopefully start, finding like-minded people. And I love the fact that we're the people, like for what we're doing, we came from those communities, like me, Razul, Letitia came from the hood in New York City.
I didn't. You just throw me out there.
Well, and Cully, but but it's to me is different when you come from it and it's coming from, like you say, your people. But you have to make a sort of conservative effort in order to get where we need to be. And it sounds like we're very aligned in reference to that mindset on it. Yeah. But it needs to be, there's no self-made millionaire, and it's not going to take, it's going to take a lot to really start curing these poverty issues. These are systems that were created, back in the industrial period. So we have quite a bit of work to get to the right direction. But, I love what you've been doing for the last 20 years, and it's definitely effective. And I'm proud to be your friend.
For sure.
It's different when you've experienced it, for sure. I mean, that's the main difference. You've been through it, you've experienced it, and he's providing a service to so many people who need it. And the other thing I wanted to ask about, as far as jobs go, do you also offer job training or assistance in, putting together a resume, applying for jobs, or showing people how to interview for jobs?
Yeah, all of our young people that we serve, we help them with their resume, with their outfit, whatever. If they're gonna go get a job,
you talk them through it.
We have some collaborations. I mean, just this past summer, early spring, summer, we had about half of our young people working with the Knox Foundation. They have about a 12-week program that you can go do some work with them, teaching them skills, doing some outside work. And I think that, once again, that would be that's much needed, where you have more kind of like programs, because the population we serve, they're dealing with some mental health issues. They're dealing with some personal
They have
issues.
more on their plate.
Right. And so, but I think overall, we don't have a specific program that does job placement.
But you have multiple different things that help them to get there.
Of course.
You hear that, Razul? That's very important, because they'll understand what it takes to apply for a job, putting together a resume.
But think about this. Even if you think about House of Changes, right? You guys just worked out a big deal. It would be interesting if there was like a little workshop where somebody who was interested in doing that, they could go through the process with you. So they could see the numbers. They could see how you evaluate, why do we choose this building? And it's like, it doesn't have to be, you're doing it anyways. So if they can show up and they could be a part of it, it allows for them, when I bought my first house, I was at the closing, and then they showed me all the numbers, and I freaked out. I walked out. I was like, yo, this is crazy, man. What are we doing here? And so my point is that if I would have known, like I had never experienced, they want me to sign on this thing for the next 30 years, and I'm going to pay all this money, because they have the final number on there. They have the whole amount, right?
It's scary.
Yeah. And so so going through that process, it allows for you to kind of like not be as have sticker shock. You're able to just deal with it. And so, we could all create something that allows for people who would like to be where we are or beyond to at least get a foot up.
And a
Right.
taste of it. How would you envision funding something like that? Because that's something that we can do in almost any business. Like a shadowing program.
Yeah. I mean, I say you get a little grant money. I mean, ultimately though, to be just like, how much does it cost for you to let somebody follow you doing what you're already doing?
Hmm.
Yeah.
So it's not
Just like you
it's
said,
not really
yeah.
you could do it if you wanted to, but if you wanted to get a little money off of it, I mean, if you wanted to add some other components to it where it's not just following you around, but but I think $10,000, 15,000. I don't know how detailed you want to get with the program, but there's always like funding out there for nonprofits to do ideas like that. You just gotta get somebody to believe in it. You get one of the you guys mentioned about 10 supporters for this podcast. Hey, throw us a $3,000 so we could do this program for these young people where we teach them how to purchase a property. We show them the process. We talk to them about getting their credit and all of those things.
No, I mean, that's why I have offered. I want to come and help them with the men in the house with putting together resumes and applying for jobs because I think they have a lot of capability and they just haven't been able to understand or know the process of how to go about doing so.
Right.
And that's something that I volunteered to do because it's very easy and there's so many different services, whether it's in Indeed or LinkedIn. You upload your resume, you literally can click and apply for a job. Simple. And that's what I had wanted to help with, and then show them how to interview for a job because I was taught the same way, and I was interviewing for jobs completely wrong. And once I learned the right way, the proper way to interview, things changed dramatically. So that's why I think it's imperative for the House of Changes. I think they have some men who have life experience and are very, very talented and can obviously improve where they are and do better. And we want to get them to be where they are independent at some point. The other thing I wanted to ask is a lot of people have been shying away from trade schools, and there is a huge, huge need there from, I live in New York. I just know that a friend of mine tried to get an HVAC and it was like a 6-week wait for an HVAC guy. And, not enough kids are going to trade schools. Right. And that's another avenue I could see as being an advantage. And I don't think enough people are utilizing that. Do you see that as well?
Yeah. I mean, I think, a lot of times when we talk about your plans for the future, we immediately start talking about college. But in the same amount of time that you spend in college, you could come out of, in less time actually, you could have that, you could be do HVAC and have a skill that by the time that person gets out of college, you're at the highest level of it and you can make tons of money. So I just think it's just a conversation to have with young people about their options. College isn't for everybody.
No, and it's very expensive. It's very expensive.
The return on investment is dropped significantly. The return on investment for college.
Well, because
exactly,
it's like having a high school degree.
I'm telling you, tradesmen are making a killing now.
They are
starting from scratch now. I would do a trade.
Yeah, no, because
I wouldn't do a trade. My work is with talking and shaking hands and kissing babies. I don't know if there's a trade in that. If it's anything with kissing babies and shaking hands, I can do that. But I'm not getting dirty at work. I'm not doing none of that. So
Abdul, you've been very productive, very effective, and you have so much energy. Where do you see My People Community Services in the future?
Well, that's a really good question. We're actually at a point right now where we're trying to determine exactly that. Like, what are we gonna do in the next 5 years, the next 10 years, the next 20 years. I do know that we will still maintain the nonprofit, where we are very much more interested in getting back more success in our for-profit endeavors. You know, one of the things is a very different thing to be a for-profit and a nonprofit. When you're
Yes,
the
very true.
for-profit, you're the giver. So people come to you, they say, "Could you sponsor this thing? Can you do that?" You're the giver. When you're a nonprofit, you're the asker. And I don't necessarily like it as much. It's not my personality is not one to ask. My personality is to be the one to say, "Hey, you need a little bit of money. Here you go." And so I think that we have to figure out the balance between what we can do as My People Community Services and what we can do as My People Clinical Services, and what we'll do as Abdul and my wife Deshelle. I think that we have to balance all of that out, because with a nonprofit, there's a lot of things you could do. It doesn't necessarily mean you got to do housing forever. And I would just like to be in a position where maybe we're funding the nonprofit in a different way, and we're able to do the things that we feel, not necessarily that the government feels is what's needed, but we feel is needed. And we're able to kind of like make that great impact that way. So let's see how it all turns out. We just got to figure out some money stuff, in the meantime.
So you have a excellent skill set. Would a school potentially be in the future? And then what I want to add some color to why I'm saying that.
School for us to create?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
That's not.
No, I could see him being a college professor for sure. I don't think he wants to start a school.
I won't work for anybody, and
it could be yours.
Get in a school. No, neither.
You want to start your own school?
Never.
Okay.
It takes a little bit to get off the ground.
I actually have friends that have created schools.
Yep.
But it's not what I'm interested in. I'm still interested in fathers, and so like I'm moving towards like curriculum development, book writing, things like that. Going on speaking tours, things of that ilk, as opposed to putting a building up and standing in that building all day. I don't have any interest in that.
Because his presence is making such a tremendous difference wherever he goes, wherever he speaks. He's influencing hundreds, if not thousands, of people when he talks in all different aspects of life. And that is powerful.
Yeah,
that
I'd much rather do
purposeful. That really gives your life
booked
purpose.
Out my schedule for the last quarter. There's there's a number. You guys should check this out. There's a number of like nonprofit trainings for building your philanthropy base, all offered by the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. So there's these trainings. Now, it's not necessarily that I necessarily want to listen to the trainer, but I want to be in the room with the people. I think that since COVID, it's been a lot harder sometimes to be in a room with people. And so what I like to do is get in a room, and I'll learn something from the speaker, but I think being able to press some flesh with other CEOs, other people with ideas, I think that that's what I'm really interested in. I really like, even you guys, I would like to talk to you guys, not on the podcast. Maybe you guys would take me out to lunch one day.
Absolutely.
Just like, it's just, I think the more conversations you're having with people who are doing things, that sparks ideas for you to go do something. It sparks collaboration. And so that's what I'm really going to be focusing my energy on, not building a school, but just finding different ways to work with people, make money, put out products. That's where I think I'm going.
Yeah, so one of the things that I've been very focused on that aligns with what you're saying is, we get taught this kind of like grind culture to just kind of push through and grind. Mm-hmm. But I take it from more of like a, I don't know if it's Buddhist or a spiritual perspective, where I just try to put myself in the environment or the flow of what it is that I'm trying to do. And it takes the grind away. You just kind of go along with, so put yourself in the right environment, essentially.
Exactly.
Which is, people that are doing what you want to be doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I used to believe in, I think that, maybe for out of 20 years, maybe the first 15 I was just grinding.
You
But I
were a
think
worker
that,
bee.
yeah, but I think that what I've learned is that I would much rather have one meeting that leads to something big than to just be everywhere with anybody that's not going to lead to anything. And so it's like being more thoughtful in what you're doing. It's like, okay, who are the people that I should be getting closer with? Because this is something I learned in my training I went to last week. They said that I wrote it down. Hold on, I want to say it right. So give me 1 second. They said at the training. One more. Well, basically, they said that the way you get funding is through relationships.
That's
Not
all.
it's
True.
so it's like it's not like you're gonna get money from somebody that they don't even know you. They never even seen you or anything. They're gonna send you some money.
You're a name on the paper.
Yeah, this guy, he did this great application. They're not reading the applications. Either they know you or they don't know you. Either they believe in you or they don't believe in you. And so it's like, but to get them to do that, you got to be around them. You got to be in the room with them. You got to be shaking hands. That's what it's all about. And so like that's what I've been thinking about is like, am I allowing my relationships to deepen? Am I getting it to the point when people have money or something or a project or something? Are they saying, you know who you should call? Call my boy Abdul. Are they saying, call my people? Or are they just, you don't know nobody? And so I think that's what I would really like to do. I want my name to be spoken in rooms that I'm not in. I want them to be kind of like thinking of me when they have opportunities on the table. And I think the only way to do that is to get out there with the people.
And that's very true. I'm going to ask you a politically correct question.
Okay.
Do you see yourself ever running for politics?
Never.
Yeah, I didn't think so. No, because
My wife
I
had to force me to vote the last round. So
yeah,
no,
I know. I can imagine.
I don't know if I should have said that. This might be the
No,
I
I understand. I understand.
no, I gotta worry about like
you got more important stuff going on.
I don't have no time to see. Like I don't want to be political. I want to be with the people. I really
You're a man
of
the people. Yes, that's why you don't want to be a billionaire.
Like, I want to be with the real people doing real stuff.
Yeah.
And so going up to the state capitol or further than that, to me, like there's a lot of things, and you guys you got to think about this one a little bit. But I think a lot of things that we kind of like we see as opportunities, it's like all fake. To me, it's like, so politics. When's the last time you guys talked to your local politician? I mean, like seriously, have you talked to him?
I had him on a podcast, but other than that,
you had him on a podcast. But I'm saying, so like to me, it's like if I'm not dealing with you, it's not real.
And they're representing you. Yeah,
they're doing
crazy.
stuff.
Yeah.
They talk about stuff up in Washington and all this stuff that it impacts me, but they never say to me, "Hey, Abdul, what do you think?"
What do you think?
So, yeah. So
no, just give me a donation.
I'd rather deal with you guys. I'd rather deal with the people in my community who are right there, who need help, who have ideas, who want to do something, and we could do it ourselves. We don't gotta always look to somebody else to have the answers for us. And I'm not gonna be one of those guys because I think a lot of people get into politics for the right reason.
Great, but
then once they're in, the wrong reason.
Like Nancy Pelosi, who has stock market and she's got like $8 million. She got in it for the wrong reasons. She's
I'm not saying anybody's name. That you won't get me on that.
We always joke about that one.
So
boy, she's a genius.
Last question from me, Abdul. As a sociologist and the nature of your work,
social worker, not
social worker. Sorry, yeah. I know like movements are big, like MLK with all the movements that he was part of, and human rights, and then we had the Black Lives Matter during COVID. Mm-hmm. Is that something that you and my people like are a part of, or you're more like boots on the ground and that's where you want to stay?
Well, I mean, in our driveway, we have a big Black Lives Matter mural. Now, am I a part of it? I don't know if I'm a part of it. I believe it. And so when I get out, when I come to work I come to this office every day. I do my people. And so, I think that Black Lives Matter is important, but I don't know if I'm a part of it. I was just looking at my bio. I'm not a part of a lot of stuff. I'm just doing what I think is right, what I find interesting, what I find important, and then I move in that direction. I always try to do what I think is right, though, as opposed to just doing anything.
I wanted to ask you, I'll give you two final questions. What do you think are the biggest challenges and difficulties facing fathers going forward within the next 10 years or so?
That's good.
Well, I'm the best podcast host in the universe.
Yeah, you are. I see that. Influence. One thing about being a father. So number one, I'll say, as a father, can I influence my children to follow me when now everybody and their mother wants people to follow them? And so I think that we have to maintain when my kids think about right and wrong, think about what they want to do, before they think about Kai Cenat or any other or Steve Cully, the greatest podcast host in the world. I want them to think, what would my dad do? What would my dad think? So influence. That's where we are. This is the time of influence. Either you have it or you don't. And as a father, you got to maintain the influence.
Very true.
Plus, fathers have been losing a lot of power because they're not always the head of the household. And then with mass incarceration, they're not even home. I'm proud that that's a big focus because that's a devastating need, because then
it impacts children so much.
Well, if you don't have respect, how can you influence?
No. So the point you're making though is that fathers they have to understand that. So like we all nobody's in jail for no reason, right? Maybe a few people, but the majority of people are not in jail for no reason. And so when they go do whatever they do to get in jail, they got to think like, listen, when I talk to parents and fathers in particular, I often say that being a father is probably the greatest thing I've ever done and ever will do. And I don't care about and that includes my people, that includes anything else I've done. Because when is the last time you created someone from nothing? You you literally made a person and you saw that person grow from being a baby all the way up to wherever they are now. That's a miracle. Like that is not, we take it for granted. We look at it like it's a small thing. To say that I'm responsible for creating this person and I'm responsible for whatever they're going to be in this life, I had a little piece of it. So we all go chase money. We all go chase fame. We all try to go do stuff outside. But our greatest work are our children. And so I would never do anything that would jeopardize the way that my children look at me, because I want them to always feel proud that I'm their father and I have committed my life to making sure that they're okay. That's what my job is. That's the best. That's number one over all other stuff we talked about. And I think that if I can convince more men of that, the world would change. It would totally
100%.
change, because then now we know we have everybody thinks the purpose is, I got to get this money. No, be somebody that your children always respect and love. You do that. You make sure that they're straight. You teach them right. Everything else will be all right. Everything else will be good.
I just wanted to ask finally, but before we go, what would you say are some of the also challenges facing our younger people today, our teenagers, our children? We had talked before with somebody else about social media being toxic and causing a lot of problems. But this generation, that's teenagers that are going to be leading this country in the next 20 years, what do you see as the biggest challenges for them going forward?
I think that they spend too much time on things that don't matter and
Very
don't
true.
spend enough time on things that do. And so if they could focus their energy and time, like, our generation, we grew up with no internet, none of that stuff, right?
Greatest thing ever.
There was a lot of sometimes I wonder what I did with all that time.
Yeah.
There's just so much time.
We played outside.
But I'm talking about beyond just being a kid.
Oh,
I'm talking
yeah,
about when I was
right.
in college, all of that, right? And
Right.
so, even like having a good conversation with somebody, they lack these normal skills. And
They
so what I would say
very
is that,
much.
for the next generation to really make it, sometimes you got to put this thing down and reconnect with real people doing real things. I think that'll be the difference maker for the future. The people that learn how to connect. Now I know everybody's saying the way you're going to make a lot of money in the future is with this thing right here.
Wow, so many people are. Everyone thinks they can.
The money is not the only thing.
I know.
You can have all the money, but if you don't have relationships, if you don't have connection, if you don't have love, if you don't have all those other things that we've forgotten about, your life sucks. So you could be as famous as you want. Today I was watching a video, right? LeBron James was on the show with Kai Cenat. That's why I mentioned him before, because I just saw him today. He gave Kai Cenat an AP watch, right? For having it was something he had done in the internet world. And when I finished watching it, I said, I wonder what Kai Cenat, who had on a tank top and some sweatpants, is gonna do with that AP watch. Like, an AP watch doesn't matter if you're a person that wears sweatpants and a t-shirt every day. And so it's like it's a $1 million watch for no reason. It doesn't matter. And so
You're right.
we try to make it seem like everybody's just gonna, that's like one of the tricks. It's like, oh yeah, I should have an AP watch. I need $1 million watch. No, you don't need $1 million watch. And so it's like getting ourselves back to reality and realizing that no matter how rich you get, the best things the best things are the things that don't cost any money. Love, respect, honesty, all of that. When we get back to that, and that's what our kids gotta really focus on. The character traits. That's what they need to focus on. So
funny. We just heard that.
I'm late. I gotta pick up my kids.
Yeah, we're signing off. It's okay.
I'm very late, so I just gotta go now. All right,
okay, goodbye. Abdul, thank
Yes.
you so much. This was a phenomenal experience. Just so I know, I'll put this up on Facebook, Instagram, everything. I will tag you. You said you have a podcast as well, correct?
Yes.
Is it on
podcast?
Is it on Spotify, YouTube, anything?
No, it's just on Facebook. We do it live.
It's on Facebook Live. Okay. All right. So I'll listen on Facebook.
Yeah.
I'll make sure to get that up. Are there any other anything else that I can promote for you? We got a pretty good channel, so that's why I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Your website for my community service, my people's community.
Yeah. At My People Community, we're starting this campaign called the My People 1000. This is a like fundraising campaign. We're trying to get people to join the My People 1000. And to be a member, you could donate as little as $100, or you can donate $1 million. If fall in when you fit in. But yeah, so we're just trying to develop a group of people who believe in what we're doing, and so I'll throw that out there. Support the My People 1000.
Is it on the website or
it's just an idea page, but just
look. I'll mention it in the show notes though. I'll mention it in the show notes to look. And will people be able to donate for it on the website or anything like that?
Yeah, for sure. We're also having our 20th annual My People Thanks celebration 2 days before Thanksgiving. We'll be at the Bond Ballroom. I'd like to invite you guys to come down.
I'm invited.
It's a free meal. You could come in, eat up, have some pre-Thanksgiving food, and also you can join the My People 1000 and hear some other things that we're trying to do with My People. So
I would love to. I think what you're doing is phenomenal. The resources that you're providing, and it, like I said, it just takes a special person to give back like you're doing. and you found your calling. It wasn't making Spike Lee films.
No.
Your purpose is making a bigger difference because you're impacting so many more people and everything that you're doing. So
I appreciate that.
it's just been an honor and a privilege speaking with you. And I'll have this podcast up. We're on everything from YouTube to Spotify. I'll tag you. You're on Instagram, I'm sure, LinkedIn.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure.
Instagram,
Okay.
TikTok, Facebook, everything.
All I ask, share it as much as you can
Sure.
because the podcast is doing well.
Yeah.
And Ja, this is a group you guys should definitely be working with. And
Abdul is one of my favorite people. So
yeah, he's become one of mine as well. So yeah, and
a little bit of his greatness rubs off. I'll be
yes,
very thankful.
Yes, and I would love to. When I come out to Connecticut, I would love to come see you guys because I think you're doing just God's work. You're doing God's work. So
I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for being on our podcast. We really appreciate having you. And Razul, who had to pick up one of his children, Ja from the House of Changes. I'm Steve Cully, the best podcast host in the universe. Abdul, remember this: when life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Take 2 oranges, throw them right back